Tonight marks a new format for our drivers to tackle. Qualifying takes on an extra bit of importance, and now having one good feature race won't save your nights. 3 main event races will tally a golf-style score of lowest points wins. So how low can you go? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the iRacing Short Course National Series, and you'll see it all live here on RaceSpot TV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and I'm joined in the booth by Arjuna Kankapati. And I have to admit, Arjuna, this is absolutely becoming one of my favorite styles of racing on the iRacing sim.
It's fantastic. You know, we've had 2 years of iRacing World Championship history now in the books, and the Short Course National Series has really been the place where drivers have honed their skills and been watching from afar, seeing all the great wheel-to-wheel racing action. And we bring all of that together at one of the longest tracks, Rolling Hills of Michigan. New format for them all to experiment with and discover. I think it's going to be plenty interesting here today.
Absolutely. And as we take a look at the schedule, we will be seeing more of the Triple Crown racing style throughout the season. We've already been to Wild West and to Crandon, and both of those put on fantastic shows. So Park River has a high bar to try and clear. Wild Horse Pass is going to be next week, where we head to the bull ring of these short courses. Very short course in that case. And then, of course, Crandon's short version after that. And then we'll head back to Wild West to cycle back through a couple of them once more. But should be a lot of fun. They always put on exciting shows here in the Short Course National Series. Now, we were talking a little bit as well about the format. So in case you didn't quite understand what we were talking about, well, they are going to advance 12 drivers in the qualifying session that's going to be starting momentarily, automatically into the main event. Then from there, we'll have some heat races where drivers will have to try and advance into those main features. Those who don't advance will be sent home. Then we will have 3 main events. And ignore what I was saying earlier. Apparently there was a bit of a switch up on the rules on me. So they will score them as normal. But to win this entire weekend event, I guess you could say, you have to score the most points between those 3 main races. So that's how we determine the winner of the event itself. It's something where consistency will definitely be a major factor in it. And we have seen some consistent drivers in the past, but this is a style of racing, Arjuna, where consistency can sometimes be a little tough.
No, absolutely. And the important thing as well to consider, right, is those inverts, how they're all going to affect how you're going to fight for track position, because ultimately you're not going to always be thinking about being at the top of the field. You're going to be realistic and figure out, right, in that next race I'm going to be thrown back slightly further, I've got to figure out this start. I guess the one saving grace in some ways, or I guess the one thing that keeps things interesting, is that we're not at Crandon with the Land Rush style start because, well, let's be honest, Joe, inverts there, meaningless.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have seen the inside line often be a little better, but sometimes that far outside line can use the dirt for a little extra grip. Some drivers have kind of used that to their advantages. Looks like they have just kicked off the qualifying session. And like I mentioned before, one of the things that is important with this format, since you can automatically lock yourself into the main event, you want to be quick before. In the previous style of races that we had in this series, Arjuna, you would get slotted into the various heats, and it would be more about finishing well in your heat race to try and get yourself to advance automatically. Here, you need that quick time.
Yes, and that's why you can see the look of focus on so many faces right now. They would love to just be sitting on the sidelines and be watching on, and right now just waiting for those qualifying times to begin to trickle on in. First times onto the board, 1:10.73 on the benchmark, and already half a second found at the front for the flying Jacob Rafos.
Indeed, no surprises there, as he's actually going to park it and then come back out with fresh tires for his third counted lap. Unfortunately, it looks like that one's not going to count for one of our drivers, who just goes a little bit off and into the barrier there on the last part of the lap. It gets very tight here. You can see those giant blocks just lining the outside of the circuit through turns 10, 11, and 12. But right now, Jacob currently has it by about half a second for that pole position. Only 12 drivers have set a time, last of them being Crystal King, and now we finally get our 13th. Looks like Cross Kirchmeier going to unfortunately be just below the cut line.
It seems like a handful of drivers may have invalidated the lap time the first time around, so maybe just flirting with the walls is that a bit too much, but really puts you on the back foot, right, because you want to make sure that that first lap gives you a banker from which to work from. You can then build on the subsequent laps, be a little bit more brave, a bit more risky with the lines that you run, and those drivers now have to take the banker on the second lap and hope the third lap is a flyer.
Exactly. So really going to have to perform on this one. Crystal King just got her second lap in, and that was good enough for 8th. So nicely done. They do get 4 full laps to try and set a time, so she could come back out if she so desires. But right now, she is probably where she wants to be, hence why I just saw her duck on in, as Justin Kay is going to be swinging around the last few corners in that number 29. Let's see if he can get a time on the board. He blinks out, unfortunately, and it looks like that is going to be it potentially for that lap, as I don't see him across the line.
I think what he did there was he thought that he'd clearly done something wrong on the first 2 laps, didn't want to cross the timing line to start the final lap just yet. He'll get the chance to reset, maybe dial in the setup for a looser track and do something different, as Nicholas Dachelet runs to the line, and the 109.756 should have improved, but I don't think it counted. So interesting to note that drivers find themselves really playing limits with those track walls like I was talking about.
Exactly. Not something we've seen as often. Even the past times that we've come here, I don't recall seeing this many drivers with deleted laps, as Thad Countryman will kind of trundle around. I think he's getting ready to try and start this one off. Look at him go all the way out to try and widen this last corner, open it up. Now he starts to take off. Meanwhile, we've got Nicholson in the 41, another driver that's on his 3rd lap without a time, down on the board, comes through turn 12 and across the timing line. It's a 1:11.7. Oh, he's just outside the cut line in 13th.
It's very, very close, and those are the margins, but now he's running out of times to really punch on in. So like Joe mentioned, they get 4 attempts to work. He knows how he's going to be doing, and this is the interesting thing where some drivers have the delta that shows up on their screen. It's not always a great thing. It sometimes plays in the back of your mind. Real-world drivers often talked about how they don't want it in cars where, you know, the screens give you all that information. I think in a session like this, Joe, you want as little info as possible. You want to feel the track and get as much speed as possible.
I know that's usually how it works for me, is I have to turn it off if I get into a qualifying session, because I tend to run faster if I just don't focus on that. Oh, he brushed the wall, though. I don't think this one is going to count, and he knows it. He's going to send it off the course in a fit of rage, unfortunately. So now Trenton Briley and Christopher Plumley, still the only two drivers that don't have a single lap time on the board out of our 28 competitors.
And we're going to see the final times come on in. Dennis Mickelson, we were talking about him just off the cut line for a moment. What's his final lap time going to see? No improvement for him, so he'll be having to fight through the LCQs, and a fight it will be indeed, because only two drivers advance from each of them. Not much really to fight for at the top.
Watching Cole Fisher on my screen, because he's coming around to try and finish a lap, and he's 18th, so he's close. Oh, and his fourth lap was not faster, unfortunately. So he will not be able to automatically enter himself in. Magashik here in the number 253, down in 23rd, even after he improved on that last lap to a 1:12.5. Now, again, their night is not over, but it's going to be a lot harder. Crystal King did not improve on that fourth and final lap, but is in 11th, so she will automatically go to the mains.
I think now, with most of the drivers done and dusted, Jacob Rafoss is dialing himself up for what might be one final banker. It's just a waiting game to see who else might have the chance to improve. Cody Retzlaff is on his final lap as well, but 3 minutes left in this session. Look at Jacob with that precision over the jump.
Indeed, and this last lap could take it back for him on Keaton Swain, 600ths of a second separating them around this lap. And this is definitely one of the longer laps that we have of the circuits here on iRacing for the short course trucks. So there's lots of places where you could make up that tiny little margin around here, as he'll swing it out through 9 and into 10 now. This is where it's so unique with the banking up around the outside. You can see he doesn't take it to the apex to kind of carry that speed. And through the final corners, is this going to be enough to take the pole back? No, a 1:10.8 is not going to be quicker.
He tried, he really did, and Jacob is such a young, flying driver that's always improving. I'm sure he'll take that as just motivation for what now lies in front of, as they get ready to go for those main events. Watching on, there's Cody Winicki that runs himself out of qualifying. I think that's officially everyone across the line.
I do see Jeremy DeWet just taking off onto the track. He may have been a late entry on this one, because it looks like we are now up to 29 drivers out there. There he is on screen now. So the 38 could disrupt things, but I think he's only going to get just this one lap to do it.
Not sure if the timing's indicating that it's necessarily up to speed. We'll just watch the momentum, the attitude of the car, which does look relatively clean through the S's section before you run yourself to the jump. And that's where, of course, we talk a lot about in this sort of racing, controlling the attitude of the car with your pedal inputs. You know, the throttle will raise the nose, the brake will bring it down. You know, when you're in the thick of the fighting that we're probably going to see, especially once we get to those main events, you're very, very aware of your placement and your attitude at all times and how you control the car.
Absolutely. It's certainly something very unique compared to a lot of other racing that you'll do here on iRacing. Requires its own speciality, but it's so much fun. I think that's why we still see a lot of people try and take part, is, oh, he's not going to complete the lap. So Jeremy will put the kibosh on things and wrap up our qualifying for our heat races, at least the top 12. We won't be seeing again until a little bit later, but now the cutthroat racing begins.
Yep, and it's going to be interesting how physical they all get. It's only a 4-lap race. You said it's one of the longer tracks, of 1.5 miles in length, same, of course, as what we have over at the big house, the Crandon International Raceway. But this really does feel quite different. I feel like it just flows a lot more. In some ways, feels a little bit more high speed, and you have that really interesting bank section at the end where, of course, we saw the, I think, what still remains the closest ever World Championship off-road finish when we saw the ramp off of the corners. And I think now we're just going to get ready to go for what's going to be some intriguing races to set the main event stage.
Absolutely. Our grid is together for heat number 1, and it's Dane Culver on the pole position. Dennis Mickelson will start from second, while Cole Fisher will be in third today. It is Tyler Shattuck who begins in P4, followed by Colton Buchanan in the fifth position, and then Jeremy DeWitt rounds out your 6 trucks to take part. And as far as, yes, we just got confirmation, top 2 advancing on here in each of our LCQs, which means you have a 1 in 3 chance of managing to get through. That's if you're fast enough and if you can survive the chaos of everybody pushing and shoving to try and make it above that line.
You get the sense you'll see plenty of the pushing and shoving on the initial race start, and then depending on how separated out from there we get, we'll then see potentially if there's a 2-car breakaway, 2 cars not necessarily fighting too much after that, because realistically all they've got to do is put themselves in position to get to the main event and everything else will go from there.
Exactly. So just getting yourself in that right spot and then not taking any risks. But everybody behind me, meanwhile, is going to have to really hustle if they are outside and hope that they've got the pace to try and catch them up and then make the pass. So we should see them take off as it is a short pace lap through here. Then they'll accelerate away at the start line. Those first few corners, you talked about the flow here. That is another thing, yeah, I agree, is very different about this place. Turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 are essentially all just these long, fast sweepers.
And that's where understanding, right, the momentum and the I said attitude of the car in the air, but the same thing applies when you've got all 4 tires on the ground as well, right? How do you move the car around? So much weight transfer, right? You see the suspension on these cars. It's such an amazing scientific, technological feat to see how so much weight transfers through the quarter while seeming so nimble at the same time. I'll say one thing for sure. There's no way I could drive like these drivers. There's a reason we're up here in the booth.
Same here. I enjoy it. I have so much fun when I get to hop into one of these trucks and do some laps or just have some fun in a practice or a race. But I am by no means quick in them. And those who are fast certainly are ones to admire out there. We talked about Rafis earlier, the first driver on the dirt road side of iRacing to break 10,000 iRating, which is becoming more and more drivers who have managed to break that level. But as we gain more and more members on the site, it's easier to try and start racking those up than it was back when I think it was Ty Majeski was the first one to do it many years ago. Back in the day. Here we go. Looks like pace car is off and we're ready to go racing. Dane Culver takes the green flag and gets a good shot as Mickelson's going to bang wheels side by side with Cole Fisher to try and decide the second transfer position.
That's the important thing to breakaway at the front. Now they're all going to fight for second. There's maybe 3 wide just behind. An opportunity for Mickelson to try and run away as body parts flying all over the shop out of the long left-hand sweeper.
And coming from the very back, I think that's Jeremy DeWitt. Didn't get a qualifying time in. Oh, but he gets all out of sorts, and up and over goes Buchanan, who winds up on his side. That means we only have 5 left running now.
See the left side of the screen, the green line again indicates those 2 drivers that will advance forward to the feature, the main event, as Cole Fisher almost high sides himself, nose down into the gravel. That would have been an early end to the night for sure.
Yeah, it's looking very good for Culver and Mickelson. About a 2-second gap to those behind them. If they can keep that up for these 4 laps, then they are in very good shape, while the others will have to park it for the rest of the evening. Shattuck is the one on the outside looking in. We're on board with Fisher just behind him right now, and you can see how violent the ride is in these cars.
These are machines that you've got to really just understand how not to overdrive them, right? It's so tempting to sail off into the corner. All you can do with is a bunch of understeer, and sometimes, you know, we talked about walls and stuff, sometimes you find yourself just offline and it finds yourself sucked off because of the blue groove that develops underneath. What does that mean? Well, it's how the rubber actually interacts with the dirt, because yes, tires have rubber, so you are really laying it down into the surface underneath.
We come across the jump down into 6 once again. This is where a lot of the passes tend to take place. And as they break into that corner, not nearly close enough to try and see any overtakes this time through. Well, it was the top 2 running away as we take a look at that opening melee coming out of turn 3 and up towards the chicane. Almost 4 wide at one stage, and oh, they touched just before the jump. That definitely will do it.
You touch before the jump, you touch during your time in the air. It's very, very hard then to control the car in the lateral sense. Of course, you control it vertically, but unfortunate there, and really for Colton Buchanan, unable to really fight too much. And now we can watch a fight as we head on towards what will be the penultimate lap of the race. Like you, I think you were trying to point out, in the fight for second, as Tyler just runs a little bit wide, he tries to hunt down Dennis Mikkelsen.
Yeah, Dennis is starting to lose touch with the leader, and Shattuck has seen an opportunity if he can just get a little closer. It went from 2 seconds down to under 1 second. He's got to get within striking range. That's going to be the difficult thing around here. We talked about all the fast corners at this circuit. It can be tough to pass. It's not impossible. I've seen some great battles here, but man, getting these things side by side is tricky.
I think the thing is, right, it's actually quite easy to fight. What's difficult sometimes when you're at a distance like this is to close, because you're running your own speed. You're not necessarily getting the cues from the driver in front, and so once you get close enough, then you just end up running the pace of the driver. You're starting to feel the pressure of the driver in the rearview mirror, and especially at a track like this where you see that banked rear final sector effectively, where you can really run it off of the wall. The alternate lines will be taken. Don't really set up too much unless you're really alongside.
Exactly, and white flag is out, last lap, and he's much closer now. Shattuck looks like he's got a great opportunity, tries to pull the slide job. Can he get in front of him? We could see Mikkelsen try to cut back underneath and get the shot off the corner. No, he doesn't have the momentum. Beautiful move from the 27.
A little bit of internet stuff going on as well, and I think that's what's caused Dennis Mikkelsen to unfortunately go around. Battle's over in the blink of an eye.
Oh, I mean, a blink almost literally this time. Unfortunately, he is gone. Fisher now up into third, but it's going to be frustration for him. So close yet so far, because Shattuck is just a little too far up the road right now. Dane Culver, in the meantime, has gapped to about 3.5 seconds over everybody else here in the number 51. The gray and green machine basically just has to cruise the finish around this triple left-hander to wrap it up. There is the line at the bottom of your screen. The number 51 will win the first LCQ of the night.
And in dominant fashion as well, just pulled away. The margin 3 and a bit seconds at the end really does go to show how important it is to pull away at the start and not get involved in any of the fighting behind.
Yeah, exactly. Shattuck is going to advance with Fisher, Buchanan, Mikkelsen, and DeWitt unfortunately retiring early on this one. Only 4 laps that they'll get to compete, and then they have to sit at the sidelines. So there are your results for the first race. Culver and Shattuck will return when we get to the features. That takes us straight to the next of our heats, and it is going to be Mason Prater starting on the pole of this one. Then you've got Darren Sainz starting P2. Cross Kirchmeier manages third, as Nathan Metoxen will be fourth, and Brock Smith in P5. Eric Curtis, another of those drivers that failed to set a lap time in qualifying, starts from the back. Well then, the drivers eager and raring to go. We saw a little bit of action now out there. So the thing that I'm always curious about, especially with dirt racing in either discipline here, Arjuna, is the track is ever changing. So I wonder what kind of notes have been taken by those drivers as to the sort of track that we've got and what little things they feel like could be possible to make the difference.
And I guess, you know, with just these 4-lap races, they're pretty short, so not expecting too much change, I guess, over the course of each individual race. The main thing to consider is how much the track has changed since qualifying to what you're having to deal with right now. I mentioned blue group slightly earlier. What that in effect is going to mean that as drivers run on the same line, more rubber is built onto the same part of the surface underneath as the dirt actually gets washed away. This is a track that in particular, I don't know why, in my notes from the World Championship, I have it that the drivers found it particularly noticeable at a place like this. I'll be honest in saying I'm not smart enough of a driver to know what that means, but clearly it's something they really are thinking about.
My guess would be the higher speeds. You get higher speeds, and that's going to cause, more friction between the tire and the surface. So maybe that'll lay down the rubber more effectively, or maybe it overheats the tire more and it'll lay down the rubber easier just because it's melting them a bit. I don't know, but those are just
sounds
theories.
Plausible.
Yeah.
Rubber on tarmac sounds correct.
But Mason Prater is going to lead them away once they come around to that start-finish line. Signs in that transfer position as well. Can he hold on to it? Is Kirchmeier going to deny him? Certainly saw, I'd say, more changes than I expected on that last one. And unfortunately, one driver being out before we'd have to finish the first lap. We'll get one of them out before we even start the first lap as the green flag flies, and we do not have Eric Curtis. But off the line, very good jump from Prater. Sainz still fighting with the 75 behind him. As we come over the crest, watch them on board as they'll slide down into 2 and 3.
This is where they're not fighting as much as they did at the start of that first LCQ, and instantly already see 2 cars at the front, now side by side. There's also rubbing doors for 3rd and 4th position, so maybe we'll get seemingly a breakaway, but a mistake there from Sainz, and now around the outside, Kirchmeier takes advantage. One car going to go around over the jump.
That's Brock Smith, who faces the wrong way. Thankfully did not roll the car. Sainz now has to recover. Great advantageous move by Kirchmeier to see that car go a little bit sideways and pick it up immediately. Might have to play some defense if Darren still has the pace over him. They fly over the jump down into 8 now.
This is where as well, we talked about track evolution. You can see here where the track is moving, where the dirt's being flung over to, and so where the drivers are moving around. Watch on the right-hand side just how much banking they launch the cars off of as well. And the suspension travel of the car really does let the car take the abuse. It doesn't mean it's a comfortable ride. A lot of these drivers in the dirt road scene do like to race in VR and motion rigs as well. It's a visceral experience, to say the least.
Well, and the other thing that we've discovered over the last couple races, both in the regional short course series and now in the national short course series, is the new damage model means you can't play footsie with the walls and with the berms as much. We've seen drivers get damaged, lose parts because they've been hitting them too hard.
Yeah, and pros and cons, right? Because it's something we talked about a lot in the iRacing Rallycross World Championship days, where there was a lot of contact, and we sometimes had to kind of discuss whether motorsports is really a contact sport. And the answer is, while there is some contact that you should expect in this sort of racing, it's not bumper cars at the end of the day, right? And so it's finding that fine line for the drivers of the risk that they all want to take. And so far in these LCQs, we saw an incident through the first LCQ on the opening laps, but this one's been a lot closer, all things considered, although halfway through, lead starting to open up.
It's been a lot more single file, I'd say, than the other one was after that first lap, and drivers kind of got into their position. We haven't seen much in the way of changes. Smith is still going for what it's worth. I know we haven't seen him, but probably won't because he's well behind these top 4, which remain together. Coming up and around turn 3 now. This is such a long left-hander, but it's so important because it's a pretty good flat-out portion through the S's and up to the jump.
Oh, and a mistake, and that's why you can see that the 4th place car is going to close just as a result of this. Kirchmeier doesn't lose out, but you make one small mistake and it really just chock-a-blocks everyone up. And now Darren Sainz both playing offense and defense. That's 3-way fight for 2nd, then add 1 to the roll counter. First one of the day.
Kirchmeier's going to land on his tires, thankfully, off screen here as we continue to follow the fight for 2nd. Sainz ahead of Metoxen. He got that one back eventually, just had to stay patient, and a mistake started to open it up, but eventually he was able to shake his rival to throw his own race away. Here's the replay of the incident. Just a bad bounce. As good as the suspension is, it won't save you from everything.
I almost saw that in the first LCQ, so I have the feeling we might see that maybe a few more times today. It's definitely not an uncommon occurrence, but final lap in the second of the LCQs, and while Mason Prater's got a 4-second margin up front, it's definitely not as comfortable for that second and final transfer spot. And you know, you talked about pressure building to a mistake. Darren Sainz been waiting to get into the spot to be in second. Now he's the one that's got the pressure building on him.
Can he keep from making that same mistake from earlier? Well, looks like on the last lap, he won't have it happen down through the S's once again. He'll be nice and tidy through there, then up through 6, trying to stay off of that huge berm to the inside, getting the truck set up for 7. Long 180-degree left-hander, more than 180 degrees, honestly, as they come around to the back half of the circuit. This is all well behind Mason Prater currently, and he is starting to stretch away from Metoxen, so it's looking pretty safely in the hands of the number 50. You can still see that very early 90s paint scheme of the number 3 just pulling away each and every corner to take a handy win in the second of our LCQs. In fact, he slows across the finish line.
Nice drive in his Racecraft Academy car. I'm sure the likes of Josh Edmondson will be watching on. A little bit bigger of a margin at the end between second and third positions than I think we were kind of expecting. It goes to show that, you know, 4-lap races, by the end of them, everyone's kind of feeling it, that's for sure.
Certainly, and it shows that you can never give up, because Darren Sainz lost that transfer spot that winds up getting through behind Mason Prater. Those are your two advancing on. Nathan Metoxen, Cross Kirchmeier, Brock Smith will not advance, and of course Curtis was a DNS for that race. Zach Drapkin is going to be starting on the pole for heat number 3. Oliver Golding will be P2. Then you've got Justin Kay in 3rd. Cameron Magashik starting down in 4th, a bit low for what we're used to seeing from him. Christopher Plumley, another of those drivers that failed to set a qualifying time, will begin from the back. And Chris at times can be a fierce fighter, so keep an eye on that appropriately plum-colored machine.
Yeah, and I think in this race in particular, you know, you've got the likes of Zachary Drapkin, who really blew us away in the iRacing Off-Road All-Stars, where it was basically him at the front in his Redline All machine for the most part, consistently fighting at the front. And then you got some World Championship competitors as well, other strong drivers that have been strong in the National Series, and only 2 of them are going to make their way to the main event. I think there's going to be some shocks coming out of this final LCQ.
But just goes to show kind of what we've been learning lately, that it seems like the talent is really rising on the dirt road side of iRacing. There have been new faces that have been disrupting things that have, like you said, kind of shocking people. And I love to see it, because I like to see the level of competition continue to raise and everybody have to push their own game.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm just quickly trying to go off and search in a Discord server, because I think the one question that Christopher Plumley would like to get answered, though, is where is Wheatland? Yes, indeed, it is Christopher Plumley. He's been fighting the war for Wheatland for many a year.
Yeah, I mean, I've been eager to get it. Ever since I saw a map of that track, I thought, oh my God, this place looks cool, and hoping that we'll be getting it soon. They have said that they're working on it. They teased some screenshots, so iRacing has shown that it is on the way. There is work being done. We just don't know when yet, as we don't know what date they plan to try and release and complete it. Looks like Drapkin ready to take off here. And there is the green flag. Once again, pole sitter getting very good shots today, as we got battles for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Plumley wasting no time trying to shoot up the inside.
You can't wait, especially knowing that Drapkin may run away and then just leave one spot for 4 cars to fight on over on board with Christopher Plumley as he rides his way through the corner. And just look at the hands at work with the contact being made off the corner. He's almost forced wide and through the S's. Finally has to give up and roll off the throttle.
So back to the drawing board he goes. He's on the back foot of this field and still has to pass 3 cars to eventually get himself into a transfer spot. To watch from his perspective over the whoops into turn 7. And a little battle ahead of him there, it looks like, between Golding and Kay. Still got a nose to the inside, coming up to turn 8, gonna give him a hello.
That's a little bit of contact, though, that allows Drapkin to just build that advantage, and he won't need a second invitation to run away and very much make himself comfortable out front, so might just leave Golden and K to fight behind as they filter out of that final corner once again. You can see the 23 just trying a slightly different line, because that was Plumlee out of nowhere, up the inside and through to 4.
And wasting as little time as possible there. Hasn't fully completed. Yeah, now he's past him now, it looks like, as he goes by Magashik. So we go single file for once. This is definitely the feistiest of the 3 LCQs that we've witnessed so far. Up in front of him, Justin K trying to size up Golding once again as we watch from just over the right front tire coming up the leap. And watch how much air these things get.
See as well on the landing just how much that virtual suspension has got to work. You've got those berms on the inside that you've got to keep an eye on as well. So these drivers, we talked about the dangers of the track. It's not just the danger of landing badly and flipping, but take a slightly too aggressive entry into the corner and take it a bit too acute and find yourself flipping through that way as well. And then you get to these long sweeping corners, get a bit too much rotation, struggle a bit too much speed. So much to think about for these drivers, but end of lap 2, Drapkin just, again, building that advantage calmly. And even though this has been the most feisty of the LCQs so far, it's kind of what I expected, knowing the quality that's on offer.
Yeah, exactly. And I had mentioned that Plumlee tends to be a fierce fighter out there. Well, he's managed one. Now he's got to try and catch up to the others, as I think we're on board with Justin K at this stage, looking up to Golding, who has taken that spot back from him, the transfer position, which is where Oliver started this one. They now fly into the S's, pretty much single file through here. We've already seen a couple drivers wind up off the course just by getting nudged that littlest bit. And always important to be lined up through that jump down into turn 6. Still no change for position amongst your drivers throughout the field over the course of this lap, but it's looking like that might come around, because here comes Kay getting a nose in once more.
Making a bit of contact with some of those berms, and now contact in midair. Golding shoved a little bit sideways, but in some ways actually helped him rotate the car through the corner. Not often you say that, but it has now effectively meant fight is on for second as Drapkin has run away, and Plumlee's joined them. 3-way fight for one transfer spot with 1 lap left to go.
Oh, this is perfect for Plumlee. The more they battle, the easier it is for him to catch up to them and give an opportunity to pick their pocket. As we watch from under his suspension, he can see them oh so close in front of him. If he can just line it up right and pick his moment, he could get a 2 for 1.
Yeah, he's just looking and lurking as well. You can see the eyes hard, and rather the head moving around as he goes through the corner, because that's the great thing about VR. You can move your head to adjust to what you need. Look at now as we flick our way to another set of corners, eyes dart back off to the left. He is clearly, by the way, looking at some information or something, because there is something that's got his attention in the virtual reality.
Oh, but he makes a mistake down into 6. This is the last lap. He may have cost himself the chance there. And this opens up Justin K to go on the attack, knowing that he no longer has to worry about what's behind. He is going to elbow Oliver Golding out to the side, and he is going to go through.
What a great move, and it comes as well at a time where really Golding can't fight back. He's got this long right-hander, and then the final couple of corners, and that's it to go through this LCQ.
Zachary Drapkin, this is becoming a repeating theme tonight. Our leader runs away with it as the 56 takes the win in LCQ number 3. And making a last lap move, Justin K is going to sneak into second, frustrating Oliver Golding, and Christopher Plumlee unable to charge from the back to get into those transfer spots, unfortunately. Whew, that was a good one. And Drapkin and Kay probably glad to be through with that so that they can focus on the feature from here. Oliver Golding, Christopher Plumlee, Cameron Magashik going to get parked for the night from here on out. Well then, that was fun. And we have 3 more to go here, Arjuna.
And they get increasingly longer in terms of the time as well, right? 4 laps is under, 7 odd minutes or something here at the Bark River International Raceway, and we'll go start with an 8-minute race 1 main event, add 2 more minutes for the second race, and of course invert the drivers slightly and do that again, add 2 more minutes, invert them even further for the final race. It's a really interesting format, and I think the drivers have got a lot of uncertainty in which they're heading right now, especially knowing that this is the format, Joe, that is going to set up the championship finale, as it's going to be used once again in our penultimate round of the season.
Yep, and I, for one, am really enjoying this. Certainly is keeping it interesting out there, but we'll have more of it coming up in a little bit, so sit tight. We'll go to those mains shortly, and we'll bring you the action to see who can tally up enough points to take the overall event win for this evening. While we're waiting for that to happen, Arjuna, I was remembering one of the things that we've been kind of keeping tally of. Those barriers that are kind of, well, actually, we'll go to that after the words. Looks like we have a short break here. We'll be back with our feature after this. We are back once again for the iRacing National Short Course Series, and it is time for the features. As the drivers get ready to start qualifying for these, we have had 18 drivers manage to make their way into this 3-race format, and it has certainly put them on edge all the way up to this. Now they have to be consistent, not just fast on short bursts like they did in qualifying into the LCQs. So they have to try and make sure and keep things up in what is a unique format because it is timed races for this instead of our usual lap races. I'm Joe Peak here, as always, with Arjuna Kankapati. Going to be covering this series for tonight. And Arjuna, the drivers have made their way in, and I'm sure it was a relief for those that were in the LCQs, but now, I mean, the heart rate goes up all over again because look at the format that they've got.
Yeah, no, you say heart rate goes up. They haven't really had a chance to let the heart rate cool down right after, in some cases, just finishing their LCQ and instantly jumping into this new session and trying to suss out the conditions, which seem to be a lot warmer, not just in terms of the track action, but the overall temperature as well. We'll start with 8 laps. That's meant to be 8 minutes. Apparently, I just can't type or copy into this graphic correctly. But the interesting thing for me, top 6 invert. We're going to talk a lot about track position, I think, Joe, over the course of today. And I really get the sense that those inverts over the course of the 3 races will help dictate who comes out on top with maximum championship points in this very first Triple Crown event format.
Exactly. And this race has got itself quite a bit of billing leading up to it. There was a lot of chatter about it in this new format as they've introduced it, because it's kind of been a certain way up to this point. So kind of seeing how it works out, and I'd say so far it's felt like a success, but we'll see. This is cars currently actually lining up to try and set themselves on the grid for qualifying, and they'll release them one by one to go and set their laps out in qualifying. But the drivers have been practicing, been setting themselves up. There you can see them lined up on the outside of turn 2 there, up into 3, kind of out of the way where they'll get in order and then be sent out on their lone qualifying lap to set their best time. While we wait for them to do that, before we went to break, I was bringing up something that I wanted to ask Arjuna, because we kind of have an ongoing, I wouldn't say debate, but I guess like tally. When you see the concrete barriers that have sort of a little bit of a slope to them that they use frequently in these, do you call those a K-rail or a Jersey barrier?
Neither of them.
Really?
Yes.
What's your term for them?
I don't actually have a term for them, I'll be completely honest, but those are terms that I've actually never really heard before.
Really? Okay.
Am I correct in guessing, though, that Jersey barrier is the one in Europe?
Actually, well, I don't know about Europe.
Okay.
But so we've kind of have like an East and West Coast thing going on, because Dave, who's usually on here, always refers to them as K-rails. I had not heard that before, but he's based on the West Coast. I'm Midwest technically, but I grew up skating, and in skateboarding, I guess because of East Coast stuff, they were always called Jersey barriers. So I had always heard them called that. So now I always try and find out, okay, who calls them what? Because that's one of those interesting vernacular things. I always kind of want to see what's the reality here.
That you're so right about that. And case in point, concertina versus accordion. Now, that's an expression in motorsport that I think a lot of us have heard. Accordion is an instrument, at least as far as I'm aware. I was not aware that the concertina is what people call the accordion. Just, they called it a I thought that was just a phrase that was used.
I thought it was like another name for the accordion.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes, but
okay, yeah.
It blew my mind. I was like, what? They're not talking about something else?
Well,
I grew up speaking English as well, just so everyone's aware.
Tires with an I versus a Y, and all sorts of things. Every region kind of does it its own way as we get them sent around here. I think this is to at least get them on a lap so that they are for sure going to have a lap started out there. And then they will start an actual flying one. Because I have seen these sorts of manual qualifyings in the past where drivers, for some reason, don't have that first lap counted because of quirks of where the pits are and things such as that. So I'm guessing they're just doing this to kind of get them set up and on their way.
Well, and just remember, right, qualifying's already done and dusted, so as far as I'm aware, they're basically all just slotting back in for the top 12 to the positions where they were before, and now those that have come through the LCQs are being dropped in behind them, and then we'll get the invert sorted out through the iRacing system. We're going to let iRacing handle all of the magic once we get racing. We just got to get them bucketed in appropriately. I think basically we're almost done and dusted with that. Just a handful more drivers, maybe one more yet to do that, and then we'll be ready to go. But Joe, to your point about, you know, adrenaline and whatnot, this is actually helping them in some ways, right? Because it's allowing them to just calm down, drive their cars very slowly, and boom, just like that, we're in the order that we need to be.
Exactly. Refocus, recenter, and hopefully they'll all be good, as it looks like now we are ready for that first race. So apologies, I had misunderstood a little there on the qualifying and how that all would work. So it was set from before, and it looks like drivers have got themselves ready to go out there, with a few of them already on the grid lining up behind the pace truck. See if we've got the qualifying graphic ready to go here in a second, because we've got 19 cars on this one. I believe that is just a safety valve. I think that is 18, but they probably put 19 in just in case. And on the pole, Connor Berry going to be starting on the top spot. Tyson Miller will begin in P2, with Trenton Briley starting in P3. Then you've got Nicholas Stachelet starting in 4th, followed by Jacob Raffis in the 5th position. And then Keaton Swain rounds out row 3. Cody Winecki will start in 7th, as Thad Countryman will be to his outside. In row 5, it's Cody Retzlaff next to Crystal King. Rounding out your top 10, Sean Winkler will begin in 11th today, as Dane Culver will be 12th. Then you've got Mason Prater beginning in lucky number 13. Tyler Shattuck starts in 14th, and Zach Drapkin on the inside of that next row in 15th. Darren Sainz sneaks through to start 16th. Justin Kay 17th, and Matthew Lindy will start P18 in our field. So they're ready to go. They are behind the pace truck. Now remember, it is not just this race tonight. They're starting off with this first event, going for 8 minutes rather, I believe, on the first one, and then we'll expand it to longer and longer races in the following. But it is all about your finishing position in each to tally up those points.
Yes, exactly. And again, we've inverted at the front after that qualifying session's been put into the books, and so now we have to really just wait and see what's going to happen. I'm feeling very, very tense right now. Don't know about you, Joe, but new format for these drivers means as well. A lot of learning for them to do. They become familiar with the 4 tracks they race at a lot. You know, they know the competition at this point as well. It's the first time in a lot of ways they've had uncertainty be brought into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, so much of racing is about getting in that rhythm, right? It's settling into that old shoe and letting your brain not have to think about every little thing. It's your body just reacting and moving instinctually. So where things get shaken up like this, then suddenly the drivers will have to readjust. They'll have to try and make sure that they're completely up to speed, as pace truck definitely taking some speed over those whoops and testing out the shocks on that iRacing branded vehicle.
Might as well have some fun if you got the car under you to have some fun, right?
Exactly. There was one that we had at one point, I think it was through Wild Horse, where it absolutely shot over the jumps. It looked hilarious, but it was definitely the coolest looking pace truck for just a moment on that one, as they come around through turn 9 and up through the last few corners. Now they must hold until they get to the final turn, turn 12, and then they can get on the loud pedal. So while the pace truck is in, they have to pace until right about here is where the leader gets to decide. And the green flag is out, and Connor Berry is quickly on the loud pedal as they accelerate up and over the jump. A couple of them get a little bit sideways through the air, but it looks like we've got all 18 cars over the hump.
A little bit of a mistake to slip out wide, but as we filter helter-skelter through the long left-hander, let's see how much separation we're going to build. Oh, that's a big one. That's Jacob Rafoss that I saw off and around and dropping to the back, and Nitro Circus Sim Racing driver's not going to enjoy that one.
No, I think he caught the outside wall somehow. Shattuck got into him as he had no place to go. Look at Riley. In fact, he's going to go for the lead down into turn 6. Can't quite get underneath him fully. Connor Berry will deny it for now. Not often that you can see drivers try and challenge against that number 2.
You know, the two-time champion, the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series, has often been able to just keep himself out of trouble and be up towards the front. A streak of top 10s that seemingly never ended saw him rise his way to those championship titles, and coming off, of course, the race victory last time out in this championship, plenty of confidence to kick off this first 10-minute main event.
Also, if you see Cody Winecki head off and into pit lane, unfortunately made the rookie mistake, it sounds like, of filling up the right amount of fuel. So that is going to scupper his chances of good points on the first go. Meanwhile, we complete lap 1. Your top 3, Berry, Briley, and Miller.
Sequence for them as they are able now just to stretch the legs. Remember, for the second of the races, we only are going to invert the top 4. And so right now, Nicholas Dashalay sits in the hot seat as they were. For the final race, we invert the top 5. Now, I'll be honest, right now, no idea what that's actually going to mean. I'm sure these drivers have actually gone through a couple of different championship situations, as Dashalay, big mistake off of the jump, and Keaton Swain trying to take advantage, and now look around the outside.
Coming down into turn 7, and this is going to open the door on both of them. Winecki trying to get underneath. Remember, we think that he needs to peel off here soon, but he's going to take it 3 wide coming down into turn 8, and still they insist on battling this one out. Looks like maybe Nicholas is going to be able to take it over the other 2. Yes, he solidifies 4th.
At this point, though, it's allowed to build up front, so Tyson Hill and Trenton Bradley in a good spot, and now Chaos. Oh, Winecki's been involved, Retzlaff as well. Not sure if anyone else got mixed up in that.
Oh, they did, but it was because of an unsafe rejoin. Crystal King unfortunately plowed into them. Let's take a look at the replay. And this, once again, I believe, oh no, this was the start. There is your Nitro Circus driver, unfortunately, with Jacob just smashing the outside wall.
And this is then what happened to, well, first Winecki, and then actually got ran into, I think, slightly separately potentially there by the 21 machine, and there's the unsafe rejoin like he mentioned.
Crystal, thankfully, is able to keep going, and I don't see a meatball flag, so I think she'll be able to, oh, man, thankfully misses the second one, but definitely got the first there. So looks like she'll at least be able to try and finish this race, though we don't know if she's lost any pace because of that little bit of contact. Meanwhile, we've got a nice little fight here. Still for that, yeah, that's the same drivers. That's 4th between Nick and Keaton.
And I've got to say, two staples of that championship series at this point, fighting over that inverted pole position and the right really to lead the field in that next race. And you can see that Barry's pulled a margin, so clean air is somewhat important in a track like this with the evolution that we're going to see as well. You can already see the more trucks on the surface getting dusted just that little bit more. I think clean air, track position, is going to be increasingly important as we work through the evening.
And let's not forget, you mentioned that it's higher temperatures. Track surface 110. That's on dirt too. That is just baking hot. That means it'll lose the moisture a lot quicker around here, which could mean a slipperier track. Earlier is up and just touching the berm. That was Briley initially, and it sent Miller trying to escape them. He gets slowed up. He gets passed by both Dashalette and Swain.
This is craziness right now. I mean, it goes to show one mistake, big consequences. Connor Barry is sailed away, and we're not even halfway through this one as they stacked up for second. You can see as well, Briley's not feeling comfortable right now, not feeling confident. He raced in some of those iRacing Off-Road Championship Series races from Hotel Internet, wasn't feeling too confident about that. I'd feel more confident with that though than the pressure he's got behind him right now.
Same here, and just a little touch between them. Keaton unable to overtake Briley as he'll go across the jump. Still a few laps to go in this one, about halfway through this event of 10 minutes for the first of our three mains. Still having immense pressure from Swain in behind him, trying to cut back underneath. He's got to watch out as Nick in the number 23 is also kind of just stalking the pair of them.
And, you know, the great thing about this format, like we mentioned, is how much drivers will probably be focused on that track positioning. On the screen right now, you can see the points as they're going to work through the course of the event. Effectively 1 point per position that you gain forward. And you want as many points as possible come the end of those three races. Keaton Swain going to lean on Trenton Browley as they work their way through the long left-hander and going to get his nose chopped off as they fly through the air.
Couldn't quite get it done that time. He goes for the undercut once again, leans onto the side of his competitor, makes square contact between them, but now he's on the wrong side, or is he? Oh, wow, look at the slide job from Briley. Even though he was not on the banking, they tangle once again. The more they do this, the more Nick behind them is going to try and see if he can get involved.
Riding from this rearview camera, you can also just see in the air how much uncertainty there sometimes can be with where you're going and how much control you have of the car. Now Trenton Browley ran a little bit wide, left a door, a lane for Keaton Swain to try and take advantage, and no saying no to SimCoach's 21 machine. Getting on through is Keaton Swain. Job not completely done until through the S's he finally gets it.
Had to get his elbows out, but he made it stick. That'll put him in a second. Currently the 23 still our driver in the reverse pole, and it looks like Keaton's still having to fight Trenton Browley, who tried to go up the inside of turn 6. He'll cut back underneath him once again, down through 7. He gets his nose ahead as we watch Trenton Browley's camera to see if this will shake him. He looks cool as a cucumber, even though he's going to lose out.
This is what we know about top-level sim racing across the board. There's not much emotion from the drivers. They're so locked into the task at hand, and right now Trenton Browley holding on. That gap, 7 odd seconds to Connor Barry. It shows how much they're fighting, how much time they're costing each other at this point, and they've not really pulled away from those behind. Dashalay's really in that spot where, Joe, we've got to keep an eye on with, 2-3 laps left to go. Reverse pole position, who'll get the chance to lead us to the start of main event number 2.
I'm sure that is quite the motivation amongst this group as well. Oh, another mistake there from Trenton Browley. Keaton is going to get his nose underneath him once more. This has happened multiple times, and just giving a little hello down through the S's. They'll somehow get the other side without sliding off the course, over the jump and down into 6 once again. Can he manage to make another pass? No. He still is making him think twice about it. Up underneath him now, it's going to be Nicholas Dashalet in the number 23. And then also Tyson Miller in behind them. They've got another car coming. Dane Culver, 5 trucks in a line.
This is what short course is all about. How close can you stick to each other with a track surface that doesn't really give you much grip, and you're just out there fighting against the conditions and almost 3-4 wide, fanning out through corners. Now they'll get 2 more laps after this, given the amount of speed that Connor Barry's got underneath them. And now Trenton Browley's left rear is flapping off as well. Has he picked up a bit of damage? He's got track position. How important will that be though with the battle crew behind?
So far, he's been able to hold it down. The 17 has rebuffed the advances of those behind him. Coming down through 3 once again as we ride on board. Actually, almost a defense needed from Miller. We couldn't quite see it there, but Dane Culver got to the inside of him briefly. He had to step back once again. This shows you just how much of a needle they have to thread, even though these cars look like they are not precise. Coming down into turn 6, there's Keaton Swain trying to be precise and getting a pass done on Briley. He gets nudged out a little bit down into 7.
It's going to now just allow the stack up. Here comes Dashalet, potentially up the inside of Keaton Swain, but doesn't get alongside, doesn't force the issue as well. He recognizes he might be in a great spot as we come back towards the final couple of corners to take the white flag. There's a bit more contact Riley's not going at the optimal speed right now. He's just placing his car exactly where Keaton Swain doesn't want it to be until he can force his way on through.
Brilliant exit out of turn 10 from Keaton Swain, and that did the job, but he's going to have to hold on to it for a full lap, and I don't think Keaton's going to take that one lying down. Still, it looks like the 23 holds the inverted pole position if he stays put where he is. Tyson Miller's going to try and change that one, no doubt. We see them come out of 3, down towards the S's once more. Looks like Keaton Swain getting himself a couple truck lengths.
I have apparently been speaking lies through this entire 10 minutes. The invert's going to be the top 6, isn't it, for this first race? So realistically, Dashley was actually in a great spot. Look at these drivers fighting behind, though. Dane Culver and now Dashley involved with the likes of Tyson Miller, as there's a very beaten up trucks now on display at Bark River.
Well, they won't need that bodywork for much longer because they'll get replaced for the second race. Tyson Miller is in that reverse grid pole right now. Meanwhile, up at the front, Connor Berry is coming to the line. You don't let this man run away because he will dominate here in the first main. Meanwhile, behind them, they have been nose to tail in the battle for P2. It's going to be Swain over Briley, with Nick finishing 4th, and Miller is actually going to move up into 5th. Culver gets demoted down to 6th, but he will be on the pole.
52 thousandths of a second split them. We know that you can have some close finishes here at Bark River, and gotta say, for the 2-time iRacing Championship Series winning driver Connor Barry, couldn't have gone much better than that, although I think from now he's going to have a much more difficult proposition lying in front of him.
Certainly, he's going to have to make some passes as we'll take a quick look at the results of this first race. Barry taking the victory over Keaton Swain. Then you've got Trenton Briley finishing 3rd, Nicholas Dashlett finishing P4. And how about Dane Culver going from 12th to 5th? Sean Winkler was P6, and it was Justin Kay in P7. Raffus wound up recovering to 8th, which is impressive on its own, as that countryman was 9th, and then Matthew Lindy went from 18th to 10th out there. Then you've got the latter half of the field with Prater finishing 11th, Crystal King in P12, and Darren Sines 13th. Zach Drapkin will be P14. Shattuck, unfortunately unable to recover from his early incident involving Raffus. He finishes 15th. You've got Tyson Miller, the last one on the lead lap. Winecki and Retzlaff will finish multiple laps down, but they'll get more opportunities because we will have our next race coming up in just a moment here. So there you can see the standings for the team battle as well.
Those were meant to be the Drivers' Championship standings, but what's happened is not only is it showing us the team name, but the other problem is that they're also showing us the results of what's happening up ahead, because the drivers, Joe, are already on the grid, ready to go for the main event number 2.
Indeed. So the grid will be reversed. If you can't do that on those top 4, that is going to be Nicholas Dashlett. Actually, I'm showing as on the pole. It looks like we do have Connor ready to talk to us about that race. So why don't we have a little bit of a chat with him and see how he felt about that one. It looked like everybody was just kind of fighting hard behind you there, Connor, and let you run away with this one.
Yeah, I mean, we started in first, and it was just about being like smart and smooth. It is only the first one, so I knew that it was important to go out there and get first, just because I now start in 4th. So it's gonna be good, but I'm glad that we were able to go out there and get the win. I qualified in 6th, which definitely was not great, but we were able to go out there and win. So yeah.
Well, certainly looks like you're going to be tough to beat in these. You said you're going to have to come from behind. What's the plan?
The plan is to get towards the front. We started in 4th, and Swain's going to be beside me, so it's going to be hard. I think our speed's good. I think we had the fast lap, so I mean, I definitely think our speed's good, and we have a shot to get back to first. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be a battle, but our goal is to go out there and attack, and we need to stay in front of Swain so we can go into the third one with a 2-point cap.
Well, best of luck on that. I'm pretty sure you're the man that's up for the job, and I can see you're ready to go getting those gloves on, so we'll let you prepare.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That was Connor Berry, winner of the first main event of 3 tonight. We're going to extend it a little bit longer. It'll be 12 minutes for this second race this time, so 2 more minutes out on there. Will we see the drivers have a different experience, especially Arjuna, with a very, very worn-in track now?
Yeah, you know, there's going to be obviously that evolution, but these drivers are also experienced. They'll have the multiple setups dialed in. It's more just now adjusting their driving and getting used to that and being able to go. We mentioned the change in track position as well. That's going to be an important factor. You know, Connor's now finding himself really with a lot to focus on. So I don't know what to expect. Although I think that it was a relatively tame first main event, knowing what short course can be all about.
Yeah, I've definitely seen crazier in short course off-road racing, but I'm pretty sure that there are going to be drivers such as Retzlaff back there in the back that are slightly out of position. I feel like Shattuck also, remember he qualified or at least started a little bit higher up in the other one. And it wound up kind of collected in that opening incident down through turn 3. So maybe he could try and push his way forward and get a little better results that time. But it's never going to be without some struggles out there in this style of racing. In the meantime, we'll come back after a short ad break. Your second race will be here after this. Welcome back once again to Bark River International Raceway for iRacing's National Short Course Series. Joe Peak here with Arjuna Kapati. Arjuna, now we come back with an inverts on those top four. It's going to be pressure on for the 23.
Yeah, I think this is where, we saw how important Clean Air was for Connor Barry to pull away. Can Nicholas Dashalet do the same with the advantage up front?
Well, Nick is going to be starting on our pole with Trenton Briley. Next to him in second, Keaton Swain will begin from third as Connor Barry starts P4. Then it is Dane Culver in the fifth position on this one. Sean Winkler, P6, is followed by Justin Kay in seventh. Outside of there, Jacob Raffas, who had a bad start to the last race, is going to have to try and make up for it here. Thad Countryman will start in P9. Top 10 rounded out by Matthew Lindy. Mason Prater begins in 11th for this second race. Crystal King, in spite of the damage, will start from 12th here. Had a decent recovery on that first race. Darren Sines starts 13th, and Zach Drapkin will be P14. Then you've got Tyler Shattuck involved in the opening wreck there as well. Will have to start from 15th and work his way forward. Tyson Miller will be P16, but he didn't get off the line for some reason. He's still stopped out there. Cody Wadecki will be starting 17th, and then Cody Retzlaff will round out your 18 truck field. Hopefully, okay, Tyson is towed back into pit lane, it looks like. So whatever was wrong, thankfully, he will not be in the way of the field when they come around. That would have been absolutely disastrous at that stage. They just have a couple more corners to go with the pace car now in the pit lane. And Nick will have all the work to do here up from the front with fast drivers breathing down his neck. What's it going to be? Green flag is out, and he is on his ways. He comes over the first couple jumps here at the start. Oh, and things get a little bit wild for Trenton Briley, who gets sideways behind them. We got a truck come fully going sideways and falling down the order. That was Sines.
Outside of that, though, everyone's safely through, so a couple of trucks mixed up, everyone else single file for the most part, and now starting to get to grips with the, like we were talking about, warm track conditions, and now they're having to fight with Connor Barry, tries to get past Trenton Briley, elbows out and dangerously over the jump as well, but somehow either side of the guardrails they're able to fit, and what a wonderful pass that was.
3 wide still, and Briley's stuck in the middle. He's not having a good start to this race. He's going to try and fend off Winkler to his outside as the 720 tries to see if he can find the grip, but no, it is all loose stuff out there at this stage. Unfortunately, he's going to lose one more. Justin Kay now getting involved.
Definitely elbows out here, because we're at the point, right, where drivers realize where that first race has put them in terms of the points hold to try and get to the front. Jacob Raffas had a decent start to the second race, and just as I say that, can you believe in a commentator's curse, because he has an issue and instantly brought back to pit lane.
I think he got pushed over the wall, unfortunately, went out into the ether, so he is not going to be able to recover. Look at Crystal King absolutely launching that thing over the jump.
There's no half-heartedness in this series, that is for sure. All of these drivers know that the level that they have to fight at means that there is no quarter being given, and that is all for 11th spot, let's not forget.
Exactly, I mean, for the lead, it's still close too, with Nick holding off Swain there up at the front. We're going to take a look at the replay, and a car just unfortunately getting shoved outside, and, oh, or did he? Well, I thought initially he did. Maybe that was a case of the car was damaged when he got bumped into the wall and he tried to Alt F4 out of that one.
No, I think there was definitely a bit of that, but there was also just that net code, right, potentially as well, where he's on the outside, Jacob racing in Europe, and so sometimes you want to give a little bit more room. No room being given at the front, and Keaton Swain, the next one to find himself in trouble. Connor Barry runs into his former World Championship rival, and as they all try to get out of the way, Keaton Swain drops out of the top 10.
Oh, he tried to reverse it to do the right thing and prevent another accident, but more drivers run into him. His day is over. He parks it. This means Connor Barry already up to second place. 3/4 of a second to catch up to our pole sitter.
It's a deja vu moment as well, right? He puts himself into the same position, and Connor Barry's there and doesn't really have time to respond, and like you say, puts it into reverse, tries to get out of dodge. Unfortunately, just not in time.
You can see it looked like some suspension damage, maybe put paint to everything as that front right wheel was kind of wobbly after that second hit. One more glance at it. So that's twice now with two major players getting shoved into that outside wall. You got to play careful too wide into there.
No, absolutely, and we were talking about invalidated laps in qualifying. I think that's what we were probably seeing it from. It's 3 wide across the jump. Now Crystal King's going to just go straight on as Cody Retzlaff takes advantage, grabs 2 or 3 for the price of 1. This is insanity through the field. Truck showing the damage, and in the live point situation, remember the total points accumulated. Whoever has the most after that third and final main event gets 50 championship points, and so on and so forth after that. 2 positions with Connor Barry and Nicholas Dashley right now in the front of the field.
And they're starting to get away from all of them. It's about a second between them and Dane Culver. This action back in the mid-pack, though, is fantastic. These drivers are certainly not giving an inch or asking any quarter whatsoever. This is the fight between Briley, Winkler, and Lindy for that 4th position as they come over the jump down into turn 6. A little nudge to the back of Briley. Will that send him too far? No, Winkler can't get underneath.
Right from the suspension cam and just see all the travel of the suspension. You take a look at the camera for Matthew Lindy as well and just see all those trophies behind. Plenty of real-world success in various asphalt races, and you've seen him in the sim world be very, very successful on the dirt as well, and now just trying to cut back underneath, and what a beautifully judged opportunity that was, but he needs the elbows out to get past Sean Winkler.
And it looks like he's going to be able to do it. Yep, that will get him through. Goes up the inside as well. Almost nudges Briley out into the concrete. Looks like as they come across the jump, Briley will fight back, hold on to P4 at least for now.
This is great stuff, but once again, just costing them time to those in front. And again, the invert after this is going to be slightly smaller, so there's less to worry about. There's a little bit of a hip check out wide. Trenton Briley pushed up into the effectively marbles and now almost off the track as well.
He's got to be careful through here. He's very wide. That's going to make him vulnerable coming off of the S's. Up towards the inside, sending it in deep. Here comes Sean Winkler. Doesn't get both of them. Does manage to at least get his nose ahead of Matt as they switch directions once again. Back through turn 7. The battle rages on.
Sean Winkler could sell you a house, but right now he would like to very much take that position away from Trenton Briley and around the outside. That's a bold place to stick. It gives you the inside back towards the penultimate couple of corners. And now with Lindy shoved out wide, Briley's the one that's able to squeak his way on forward. I mean, it's great stuff, fantastic to watch, but now halfway through the second main event, I've got to really question it. They're not doing it at the very front of the field, and that's because they know now just 3 cars left in the mix.
And Connor, I mean, is still sitting in a great position. Now, I wouldn't relax too much if I were him, because we've seen that Nick is quite fast in his own right. So if he lets him have the win, that could come back to bite him. He's probably going to try and go for it a little later on. Just behind them, Dane Culver also remaining a serious threat as we ride on board with Dane. There's the move now, down to the inside, into turn 6 once again.
Not going to get the chance to really go for it yet, and that's the experience from Connor Barry, right? Carrying the experience from the real world to the virtual as well, because then Dashley makes a mistake. Opportunity wide open. Connor Barry, no second invitation needed, and back to the front goes the number 2.
Smooth move by Connor, although it looked sketchy at one point. I thought he was going to get completely turned around, almost 3 wide as they go caddy corner from one another down through turn 9. Switch back into 10. We're going to look a little farther back once more. This is that fight for 4th that we were watching before. Briley under attack. Winkler almost manages to get underneath him but can't finish the job.
Important fight as well. After this is going to be top 5, so Winkler in a great spot, although Briley almost finds himself sailing off and into the grass. Really high commitment on display from these drivers. Point situation does see, by the way, Barry now with a 5.5 position advantage over both Briley and Dashley. Not a insubstantial gap, I should say, going into that main event, if Barry's going to be able to stay this consistent.
Winkler manages to just cut back underneath and get that 4th position away. Briley now fighting a rear guard on Justin Kay. Don't forget about Mason Prater in there. In fact, my goodness, it's a train of trucks. This goes all the way back to Cody in the number 9.
Yep, it's from 4th to 12th. What we love, just how close you can race. Now, Bradley's made a mistake. He's off wide. Very little grip there. He'll lose another spot as Lindy takes advantage. With Winkler now up front and with Kay sitting behind, I wonder if a couple more laps left to go, Sean Winkler might have the speed to start to break away at the front of this train.
Well, speaking of trying to break away, Connor's going to have to try and do that because Culver was battling him for the lead, but has now slipped back, and Nick has decided now's my chance to strike as they're going to get together a little bit. That'll slide the 23 way wide out into the marbles, side by side, coming up into the S's. Who's going to give way? Neither are. They're going to slam doors against one another. This could go bad in a hurry.
But up and over those jumps, if you can stick it in a single file straight line, you can then fight on the landing and down through the complex. This is what you were saying, Connor Barry trying to run away. He's already 2 seconds to the good with 3 minutes to go. I think Connor Barry's got back-to-back main event wins in this first Triple Crown format of the iRacing Short Course National Series.
Certainly looking like it. He's still got a bit to go. I think they're going to be 2 to go at the line. Oh, just managing to nudge him off to the side. Nick still fighting hard with Dane Culver. He switches back once more, trying to get underneath him as down low. We've still got that fight for pole. Mason Prater having to also, edge another truck into the wall. That's a third one that's played victim.
Justin Kay, who I think may have put himself in that position by just sliding to the outside and leaving the room underneath. But like you mentioned, Prater now in a great spot in that Racecraft Academy car, has been slowly working his way forward and will continue to do so. Fight for seconds. He's rubbing of doors once again as off the corner. You can see the front left quarter panel of Nicholas Dachelet rubbing. They won't go side by side this time by, and Dachelet's in front.
Fighting like this was the last lap of the last race. This is impressive stuff between the pair of them. They both want those points. Now it goes back to the 23, holding the upper hand as they slow down through turn 7, get on the throttle of these four-wheeled machines and try and power their way over the jumps. But this has put a huge gap between themselves and Connor Barry. It's all the way up to 3 seconds.
Yeah, and like I said, I think once the 1 second margin was built, at that point Barry was gone. There was no closing down, and both of these drivers recognized that. Just look how much the car travels as they file out of what is the final couple of corners. Now they should get one more lap. I was curious because the clock was very close, but white flags are down. Very obvious final lap of the second main event.
Oh, so tight. If they had gotten that one extra lap, maybe that could have made a difference here in that battle. We don't know yet. Nick versus Dane as we ride on board with the 23, looking back at Culver for the first time they're not going to be side by side up towards the entry of the S's, and they'll stay put as Dane setting him up. He gets a good run coming over the jump. He could try and slice down through the inside. No, he can't get on the brakes deep enough.
All those body panels almost half flying off Dachelet's car, seemingly giving him a little bit more speed. So clearly aerodynamics not a primary concern here in the short course machine. But what he clearly does also have is a car that's very capable at changing directions very quickly. Just look at it here as it slips back to the right through the final couple of corners.
Have to remember that Connor Barry, as he comes around these last few corners, got damage from a hit early on in this race and has managed to get away with it and take back-to-back wins as he pumps his fist in celebration.
Behind, who's going to get that crucial 5th position, lead us to the green. Dachelet was able to grab second after grabbing inverted pole. Mason Prater, great drive for him. 6 positions gained. Not the biggest mover though. There were some drivers that took advantage of plenty of chaos in main event number 2.
Cody Retzlaff definitely the most amongst those. Up 9 spots on this one to finish 9th. Remember, he was multiple laps down in the first one, so he was a bit out of position. And I have to say, that was a fantastic run out of him as our second race has been completed. So looks like we've got our results for race number 2 of our feature here. And that will go to Connor Barry for the second time this evening, with Nicholas Dachelet finishing in P2. Dane Culver wound up in 3rd, and Sean Winkler will be in 4th position. Mason Prater will get inverted to the pole, but finishes in 5th on this one, as Matthew Lindy will be P6. Then you've got Trenton Briley, who started on the front row but couldn't hold it down. He winds up 7th. Zach Drapkin was P8 today. Then you've got Cody Retzlaff in 9th and Crystal King rounding out the top 10 with consistent finishes for her. Cody Winecki will be in 11th, followed by Tyler Shattuck in 12th. Darren Sainz down to 13th and Tyson Miller in P14th. Thad Countryman, last one on the lead lap, 15th. Raffus, Swain, and Kay will be multiple laps down. Looks like we've got another chat with Connor. Connor, you said you had to fight your way through. Certainly looked like you had some scary moments, maybe a little bit of a run-in. How much damage did that cause the truck?
A lot. After I saw that Swain got stuck, and I was like, uh-oh. I thought that I was going to be toast, but somehow I was fine, and then we were able to go and get the first spot.
That you did. It was certainly exciting for us to watch. I mean, can you make it a three-peat? Can you sweep it?
It's going to be hard, but we're starting from 5th, so it's going to be hard, but we're going to go out there and try. The track is very, burnt in, so it's going to be hard to steer, I think, so you're going to see some very crazy stuff, I will say. So I'm just going to sit there and be smooth and try to get to the front.
All right, we'll see if patience is a virtue tonight. Congratulations on the next win and best of luck.
Thank you.
That was Connor Berry winning both of our first 2 main event races. Now we come to the 3rd, and it looks like drivers are gridded up and ready to go. They have inverted the top 5 this time. That means Mason Prater will start from the pole, as Sean Winkler will start in 2nd. And it's Dane Culver beginning from P3. And last time starting from pole, Nicholas Dachelet wound up 2nd. He's going to start from 4th. Well, he wound up 4th last time he did that. So where will he sit at the end of this? Connor Berry gets regrid into 5th. Then it's Matthew Lindy starting P6 today, Trenton Briley in 7th, and Zach Drapkin in 8th. Row 5 sees Cody Retzlaff in 9th and Crystal King next to him. Crystal is just as feisty as ever today. Excited to see what she can do. Cody Winecki will be P11. After that, Tyler Shattuck starts in 12th on the outside of row 6. Darren Sainz then will start things off in P13 today. Tyson Miller will be in P14 and Thad Countryman 15th. Raffus has to come from the back again in this series of races from 16th this time. Keaton Swain 17th and Justin Kay in 18th. Drivers already out on the grid, good to go. It was mentioned, and I was very curious. I'm glad he said something, Arjuna, what the track felt like. It sounds like it is getting kind of slippery.
Yeah, but again, at this level, right, they're all just adjusting. They're making those micro adjustments. The important thing is feeling that adjustment. That's where the level really comes here, right? You go to any sort of mixed surface racing or even mixed condition racing, especially important given that, iRacing's Rain has recently released, and it's those drivers that can adjust those slight changes, make the difference as quickly as possible, that can make the most out of it. No track resets at all across the evening as well, outside, of course, of us resetting the track to jump from the LCQs over to these main events, which is slightly different to how some of the series have worked in the past, and so it's one of those unique things about how much more wear they've got to deal with.
Yeah, I had asked Keaton Kusin that when we had the happy hour on iRacing a bit ago. Since he does a lot of dirt, I was like, well, is this helping you in the rain? And it sounded like it does. And it's got a little bit of similarity that you always just kind of have to be reading the track every lap and understanding where you need to place the car and just be adaptable out there as they head off on the pace lap. 14 minutes on this one. Now you've got me doing it. As this is going to be the longest of our 3 main events. 14
minutes, though, still short races in these
yes.
in these trucks. We're only talking 8 or so laps, so not much time. We've seen an increase in those minutes, but realistically, haven't really seen too much of a change in the contenders. And, you know, Connor Barry's in a great spot right now. Can he make it 3 for 3? I think he's probably the favorite in many ways. He doesn't need to do that, though, to become the very first Triple Crown winner in series history.
Let's see if he can manage that, or will Prater or Winkler manage to deny him? Will they be able to stay up front? Certainly seems like Sean Winkler is ready to get his elbows out today. So you got to keep an eye on that 720 machine as they come over the whoops down out of turn 10. That has been calamity corner today. Let's hope that they can get through it cleanly this time. Green flag is out. Mason Prater gets on the loud pedal and accelerates away. He's got a clear run over those behind him. Will we be clean over the jump as they slide sideways? That looks pretty good, although Winkler goes out into the grass.
Makes a mistake and now somehow doesn't, in response, slide out into the path of those that make a couple of passes on him. He's already lost 6 positions since the start of this race, and the pain is just going to keep coming unless he can get the momentum rolled back in the direction. Now, side by side through the S's, single file eventually inside the top 5. One driver forced out wide as over the jump they land, and Mason Prater almost with a huge mistake.
In fact, they went 3 wide down into 6 there in the background, but again, they're somehow going to keep it pointed forwards and right side up. Oh, up at the front, Dane Culver on Mason Prater for the lead. He's going to be able to sneak through. Connor Barry's going to try and pick his pocket as well.
It's where, of course, the action has to be focused right now to see if Connor Barry can make it 3 for 3 in these main events. He's already grabbed second, and now Mason Prater demoted, and now having to deal with the pressure, not just of trying to regain the spots up front, with the likes of Dashley and Riley behind as well. Bit of a brawl brewing as Winkler and Retzlaff 3 wide off of that final corner. Remember, 14 minutes of racing. Don't want to get detached from the field at the end of that corner.
As I was watching them off screen there, they were actually 4 wide down through turn 11 at one point, and still we managed to keep everybody on the track. I don't know how. You can tell this is the last race. There is nothing to lose.
Incredible stuff right now. In terms of live points, I'm quite curious to see how big the margin is. So 5 positions from Connor Barry effectively from Dane Culver. So as long as he finishes no lower than what 6th position or so, he should be good, all things considered. Never trust a commentator's math though, so prove me wrong and I'll trust you on that.
Still gonna get a little bit together up front there as just bumping the side. Connor Barry makes his intentions clear. He's not gonna settle for this 2nd place. Yes, he could take the overall event win, but he wants to do it in style, as I think we finally had our first victim really have a problem. Cody Retzlaff, somewhere in the background, was off course and falls to the back of the field. Still no change for the lead, as behind them, what happened with multiple trucks got sideways and lost a ton of time.
Really checked them up, and now 57 so that's Trent Brown's car looking very, very damaged, not looking all healthy at all. And yeah, you can just see the way that it's slingshotting back and forth. Not all right in his world.
He hit one of the barriers at the side of the track, unfortunately, so I think that might have done too much damage. So let's watch. He's involved in some of this. This is not the drifting competition. Oh, and he got a little bit of a hit. So that's where it kind of started. And so here's another look at Riley's incident. If we stick with this all the way to crossing the start-finish line, that's where he gets the most damage.
There's also an incident in the live picture that involved Darren Sainz and Justin Kay, but you can see there Dashley Lane gets on through. There's clearly already something that's not all right there, and once you get hit from the rear, I've got to assume that something was already broken in the right rear at that point, and that was just the icing on the cake.
And it does a full 360, but no style points in this series. Meanwhile, battle for the lead between Culver and Barry as they cross. Oh, he's going to hit him midair. That will send him backwards. Prater takes advantage of it. So does Dashley.
And Barry's not happy about that, but again, let's not forget, where do the points sit right now? He's still 3 to the good over Dashley and Culver, who are tied on 48 points apiece. So you'll have to go back and do the math about a count back and who actually ends up grabbing 2nd place points out of this. Very important note that we're not even halfway through this championship, and we've still got 2 more Triple Crown races left to come. Connor Barry's got this format dialed in already. Now he's not going to force the issue with 10 minutes left to go.
Culver's got to be a little bit annoyed that he can't do much more than this. He's leading, but he can't take the event win without some bad luck happening to his rivals, and it has to be atrociously bad luck at this stage. But we already saw Connor Berry already sent backwards once. It could happen again as the top 4 swing through 9 and into 10.
Keep talking about track evolution. Look how much visually the track has changed. Go back and scroll through the broadcast. You don't even need to go out there and jump into the sim to get a good feel for it. That's what the drivers are dealing with, and at this point as well, there's no in-car adjustments that they really have. So what you have for this final main event, you're not changing it, and that's all you can really work with. Now, with these cars breaking away, are we going to see some of the drivers throw the backside of the fight? Because as much as we've been focused on Triple Crown winner, Joe, championship points are up for grab here in many ways.
Exactly, and everybody's fighting for their own interests out there, so you're right. We should see some fierce battles here as we weave through the S's once again. This is the battle for P5. Drapkin leading Lindy and Winicki down through turn 6. In fact, it's looking at least like a healthy gap for Zach with about 2 or 3 truck lengths back to Matt.
Drivers know that if anyone makes a mistake in front, then it's still in a pretty decent spot to be able to make the most of it. Although I think one driver that's going to be quite frustrated, in fact 2 drivers that will feel quite aggrieved. Jacob Rafos as well as Keaton Swain trying to carve their way back through the field. 2 drivers that maybe are a bit more accustomed to being up towards the front of the field. They're both back up into the top 10 though, trying to attack Crystal King, and there's more body blocks flying all over the track. Now what's happened to Matthew Lindy? He's dropped off the timing screen.
Checking to see if I can find out what happened, and this may have been some sort of connection problem because he blipped out on mine. So not sure if he's going to be able to return to this race. It'll be a real shame if he cannot get the car to reconnect in time. He's still grayed out on mine, so that might be day over.
Just see it here as he heads up to the 5 seconds. Looks okay, looks all right. Is there anything that may be a bit wrong on that right-hand side? No, something just goes wrong. And situations like that, if it doesn't come back quickly, it doesn't tend to come back as all, as Keaton Swain gives a bit of a shove to the back of Crystal King. What a heartbreak for Matthew Lindy. He was having a great run to end off this Triple Crown race.
The good news is I can report he is back out there now, but I wonder if the stewards are going to ask him to park it if that happens again, because that was way too long for them to accept it. In fact, too long into the corner for Matthew as he opens up the door, and it looks like Winicki is going to try and take advantage. Now he is through.
I'm amazed that somehow Matthew not only did he get removed from the server, but apparently his lap times are being counted as valid, because sometimes when you go missing for that amount of time, iRacing loses track of you, but somehow the pits have made it to their final destination appropriately, and that is remarkable. I've also just remembered, by the way, it's been a while since I've seen Crystal King out in competition. Always has a great paint scheme in that Shenandoah Shine 278, but also sometimes hard to tell. Joe has one of the best helmets in all of sim racing.
You know, I haven't taken a look at that. I've definitely become a fan of her. She's, for those that don't know, the first woman to earn her pro license on iRacing, and has shown why she deserves that one. She will fight you for every position, as we're seeing 2 top-tier drivers discovering. Rafos is unable to do anything. In fact, he gets rebuffed down through turn 7. She says, nuh-uh.
He had to get the elbows out to even try and make the move, and this is where lines being run, sometimes if you're not particularly fast, just stops you from being able to run over from those behind, and that's exactly what Crystal's doing right now, placing the car where it needs to be and not letting the runs, the momentum being taken advantage of. Now remember, Keaton Swain had a really big lunge. Ooh, that's Tyler Shattuck, who found himself mounted up Tony Hawk style on one of the walls. We saw Keaton Swain make a desperation lunge. I think we should worry that that's going to be repeated sooner rather than later. Fun 5 minutes still left to go.
Yeah, he certainly seems to like to do those, but he's got a few laps before he needs to try and make a move like that. So this, I believe, is Shattuck. And what have we got here on the Jersey barrier? The front side board slide? Yeah, unfortunately didn't stick the landing.
Aggressive, and got a shove by Sean Winkler, and I think might have a bit of words after that as elbows out for Jacob Rafos once again. This time a long way around on Crystal King as Matthew Lindy's internet issues persist, but this time he's in front of these 3 wide drivers who filter off the corner towards the S's, and really in the heat of the fight, Rafos the long way around and finally might get it done.
Oh, and that opens the door temporarily for Swain. That actually shoves Crystal into the side and gets the spot back from Jacob. He's going to give it right back to her. There, oh, and she hits the wall. That turns her around. That means the battle now goes down to Jacob and Keaton.
That was a bit over-aggressive, if I'm being totally honest, on Jacob's part, potentially, especially knowing what's already happened through that corner. Oh, up through the crest of turn 1. Not just a mistake for Matthew Lindy who went sailing off into the grass. For a moment there, Rafos almost pushed and escorted Keaton Swain off the track, but somehow, again, great level of racing being displayed. It's hard racing, that's for sure. It's still pointed up in the right direction.
I've sometimes described this as basically ice hockey meets ballet. They have to be so precise out there, but you cannot be weak of heart. These drivers have got to be aggressive as we get a nice fight between Connor Berry and Nicholas Dashalet. Connor only managing to get up to third with 3 minutes left to go. He's only a second and a half off the lead. He could still catch them, but time is desperately short.
Yeah, crucially though, his pass on Dashalet and dropped Dashalet off of that tie for second with Dane Culver. So Culver leads if he holds on to that spot. As it stands right now, I don't think Dashalet can really expect to finish higher than third. So, again, you're maybe not fighting for the win itself in the overall Triple Crown first event, but the points behind in what is a long championship season. And this is a great format, right? It's the first time they've experienced it. There'll be a lot of learnings that they'll take from this. And I guess the next time they go racing with this format on April the 11th, at the short version of Crandon Raceway, which is a hoot in and of itself, it's going to be very interesting, Joe, what the drivers have learned and what they show up ready to do.
I think the big thing is that consistency that we've been talking about, knowing that if you're like Connor, yeah, maybe he's not going to win this last one, but a first, and a third is going to put him miles ahead of everybody. As Dane Culver is currently ahead of Prater, who we ride on board with. I think we're going to get the 2 to go as they'll cross the line here pretty shortly. Both of them really slowing down, and you can see visually now through turn 9 how much slower it is through there with how slicked up the inside line has gotten.
Yeah, but the curious thing as well is, right, it's not necessarily always slower through different parts of the track because of how that dirt's all moved around. You've got to go find the grip, find the speed, and look how Connor Barry has closed the advantage. It's now down to just a handful of car lengths between him and those top 2 drivers. 2 laps left to go. Connor Barry still potentially has a long way to go to make it 3 for 3. Never say never, especially when it comes to the double champ.
Yeah, we've seen this young phenom is definitely willing to get a little bit elbows out. He's willing to race hard. He is always racing fair. That's one thing he prides himself on, but he isn't shy. And Zach Drapkin versus Winecki up here for the 5th position is going to go a little side by side. Zach going deep into the corner. Cody gonna try and capitalize, but parks it at the apex initially. Zach trying to balk him, doesn't completely work out. He manages to cut underneath him, gives his little quarter panel a touch.
That red line all machine, we've seen it so often, be able to break away on RaceSpot TV in the past. He's had some great fights here as well with Winnicki over the course of the day. Remember, Drapkin had to fight his way through from those LCQs, didn't qualify inside of the top 12, and as the case from, again, 6 of these 12 drivers, I'd be quite curious to hear the thoughts post-race at this point, Joe. What the 12 drivers thought about the little bit of a break that they got between qualifying and actually having to get underway.
Indeed, and coming down through turn 3, Prater is under threat. I'm not thinking a win at this stage, but 2nd place certainly looks feasible for Connor Berry. He's trying to cut back underneath. He gets the launch over the jump and down into turn 6. He's going to take away the apex and slide in front. He gets there.
There's a beautifully executed move. Racecraft Academy, Mason Prater's learn from that. Unfortunately, sometimes you learn from the best making passes on you. Not going to be time, though, for Barry to close that advantage as we kept ready to see the checkered flag in Triple Crown event number 1 in series history.
Yep, so Connor Berry might wind up just a bit shy on this one. as they come down into 10, 11, and 12. Maybe one more lap where we could have seen him try and charge forward, but Dane Culver is going to go from third to the win in the final of our main events here tonight in the Triple Crown. It will be Connor Berry, by our unofficial math, that is your event winner.
He's pending any race control. He's had a pretty clean day. Don't think there's too much to be worried about him. Plenty of cars and trucks finishing in the air side by side. Ground what's been a great opening to this new format, bringing over some of the Supercross excitement to the world of these short course trucks on the iRacing platform. Just look how much the dirt's been thrown around. Saw plenty of action on track as well. I think the paddock's going to be filled with plenty of gossip and excitement after this first round.
And I'll tell you what, I was checking the timing screen there with Rafos and Swain finishing 1/100th apart at the line. You'll see it here as these are our results. Culver taking the win in the race, but the war goes to Connor Berry with that second place. To first and the second makes the math easy on that one. Mason Prater was P3, and then it was Nicholas Dashley in fourth. After that, Zach Drapkin winds up P5, and Cody Winicki will be sixth. How about Rafos going from 16th to 7th as Keaton Swain winds up 17th to 8th. Then you've got Sean Winkler finishing 9th, going well backwards in this one, sadly. And Matthew Lindy, despite his blinking issues, winds up in 10th. On the next slide, it's Cody Retzlaff, who winds up in 11th. Thad Countryman 12th, and Crystal King 13th. Got elbowed out around a little bit. And Trenton Briley finished P14. Darren Sainz winds up P15. Justin Kay, 16th for him, with Tyson Miller finishing 17th. And I believe, nope, looks like we had one car that did not finish all the laps. That would be Tyler Shattuck. Otherwise, everybody else was on the lead lap on that one. Looks like we are going to have a bit of a chat, I believe. We're going to be talking, is it to Dane Culver first? Yes, looks like we've got Dane Culver, our winner, for that last race, to talk to us about what it was like having Connor Berry absolutely hounding him right at the end of it in that number 51. There you can see the ending standings with Berry coming away with the win. Culver finishing second behind him with that excellent win. Dashley getting third of the event points. Dane, congratulations, second in points, but I think importantly for you, a win right at the end, fending off Connor Berry. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, that was a fun race. That was really interesting too. That was a good battle mid race there.
Well, and Arjuna and I were talking about it there over that last race. How do you feel about the new format? It's a little bit different. It's, I wouldn't say frantic, but definitely requires maybe a bit of a different state of mind, it seems.
Yeah, I really came in here wanting to qualify. I really wanted to qualify top 12, but we made a mistake during qualifying and we got one lap, and we ended up having to go to an LCQ and starting the back of the first feature. So the format was interesting. It was really long. Like, I'm sweating. It's kind of hot in my house though. So, but yeah, it was really long. I think it was fun. I liked it.
Yeah, it looked like it required focus for quite a while out there, and a lot of pressure up front, like you said, to almost winding up out of these features, having to go to those LCQs. We're heading off to Cranon Short next time around. That's going to be a much shorter track, probably a bit tough, and making that track position even more important. How are you feeling heading back up to Wisconsin?
No, I have no practice on that track, so I should probably start practicing.
Yeah, I'd say so, but looks like today was a pretty good practice coming home with the victory. Anybody you want to thank for today's win?
Angelic's Beauty and Knuckles Up Racing, Works Graphics, my parents for all the support, and follow Knuckles Up Racing on Instagram. That's about it.
Well, there you have it. That's the number 51 of Dane Culver taking a fifth, a third, and a first, steadily working his way forward. Let's have Arjuna take a chat with the man who won the event, though, with a second place to wrap it up, Connor Berry.
Yeah, Connor, I mean, weren't quite able to grab 3 for 3, but talk to me about how you feel this format went. You know, you guys all know how the racing goes for the most part. You know each other, you know the trucks. The one thing you didn't really know is how the format was going to go.
Yeah, I think that it went good. I mean, I think that it was a very fun one. It brought some it brought some guys towards the front that we don't always see up there. So it definitely was fun. It was very harder because when we had the I had to start in 5th there, and we got up to the 2nd spot, but we fell back to 4th. So it definitely was hard, but I'm glad that we were able to come home with the win.
Of course, you know, 2 more of these Triple Crown races left to come in the total season. I find it quite interesting that we'll have 1 more of them right before the season finale at Crandon at Wild Horse Pass. How much do you think that's going to influence the championship heading into the final stages?
It's gonna be crazy. Especially since it is going to the most tightest track, so it's going to be crazy for sure. But I mean, the point of this is for all of us to show off our skills, and if you want to be first, you have to show that you can go out there and win. So I think that this showed it. I'm bummed that I wasn't able to go 3 for 3, but we showed off our speed, and we came out with first. So we showed a lot of speed for here, as this isn't my strongest one. So I'm glad that we were able to get first, and now we go to Wild Horse actually, which is actually my favorite one. So it's going to be good.
Always great to chat, Connor. Congratulations on the win and momentum on the side, Joe. Oh, well, the 2-time iRacing Championship Series winner.
Yeah, it absolutely is. He seems to have this one in good hands right now, but you could kind of say the same for Nick Dashley. Nick, a 4th, a 2nd, and a 4th. You know, we came into this talking about how consistency probably going to be so much more important. Was that your focus today, to get those sorts of results?
Yeah, my focus was just to have a clean race, just get as far up as I could, end up qualifying pretty good. And after what happened at Crandon, missing the main after qualifying 2nd, I needed this bounce back. So up here on the podium, it's what the doctor ordered.
Certainly. We saw so many drivers get into trouble out of turn 10 with that wall on the right-hand side, just to the next to the banking. What do you think caused so many to wind up getting tangled with that today? Because I don't recall seeing nearly as many drivers getting shoved into that as before.
Well, I think it was more of the track state. It was definitely very blue-grooved. As you can see, we were just sliding into the corners, and then once that track wears out, you turn in at the same point, and you just keep sliding, so you have to adjust in the race. And that's just what with these trucks, you just have to keep adjusting as the race goes on, and hopefully you stay out of the wall. I ended up clipping it there at the end, and kind of took me out of contention from the top 3, but was able to still bring it home 4th.
Well, regardless, congratulations, getting yourself a top 3 in the points, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again over at Wild Horse.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to give a thank you to Parsons Chevy, Factory Sim Sport, all my teammates over there, Legion Speed Sport, HW Designs, just everyone. You guys for putting on the broadcast, and on to Wild Horse.
On we go. That was the number 23. Finished 4th in the final race, but within the top 3 in the points for the full event. As we mentioned, off to Wild Horse Pass for round 4 on March 28th. So make sure and tune in. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for that race. I always look forward to that one, Arjuna, because like I said, it is an absolute bull ring.
You know, we go from one of those longest tracks to one of those short tracks. There's really only 4 corners here to really worry about. They all funnel in, and oh yeah, don't worry, there's a gecko that's very menacingly lurking over you at every which opportunity as well. Coming off this format as well, let's not forget that, Joe, plenty of contacts made today. you'd assume that there's some drivers that have now got some grudges moving on to the next round of the championship.
And going to a place like that, those grudges could boil over. There is our schedule for the season, so make sure and tune in for the rest of it, because we've got plenty more action coming your way. In the meantime, we want to give a big thank you to the organizers of the iRacing Short Course Series, as well as to our crew tonight, Arjuna and Cameron Aubernon on social media. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the iRacing Short Course National Series. I'm Joe Peak. Race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.